All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about the incredible and, for way too long, untold story of the true unsung heroes of the U.S. space program. We're talking about the women whose brilliance literally launched humanity into the cosmos. But seriously, take a second. When you hear space race, what's the first image that pops into your head? Yeah, for most of us, it's probably those heroic male astronauts in their silver suits, right? Or maybe rows and rows of guys in white shirts and black ties staring at screens in mission control. We've all seen that picture 1,000 times. Well, that picture, it's missing a huge piece of the puzzle. Behind all those famous missions, there was a hidden workforce, a whole army of brilliant minds doing the essential, foundational work. So it's about time you met the women who were NASA's original computers. Yup, you heard that right. Before we had silicon chips and supercomputers, the word computer wasn't a machine. It was a person. It was a job title. And their job was to do the mind-bendingly complex calculations that made spaceflight even possible. So what exactly was a human computer? Well, it was a job for people, almost all of them women, who were basically mathematical wizards. They were the ones crunching the numbers for everything you could imagine, from rocket trajectories to engine performance, and they did it all by hand. And get this, their tools were unbelievably simple. Just take Barbie Kenwright, who was the very first female human computer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL. All she had was a pencil and some graph paper to tackle these enormous problems. A single calculation could take more than a week and fill up 8 notebooks. Just imagine trying to figure out the perfect thrust-to-weight ratio for a 14,000-pound bomber with just that. It's incredible. But this wasn't just about a few brilliant individuals working alone. No, this was about building teams. And over at JPL, a handful of pioneering women didn't just do the work, they built the entire department from the ground up. And this timeline just lays it all out. It starts with Barbie Kenwright way back in 1939. You fast forward to 1958, and it's the hand-charted calculations from this amazing growing team of women that get America's first satellite, Explorer 1, off the ground. They were there from the very, very beginning. So how were these teams put together? Well, when Macy Roberts became a supervisor, she made a decision that was pretty radical for the time. She decided she was only going to hire women. And her reasoning was incredibly practical. She just figured that men wouldn't take direction well from a female boss, and it would mess up the whole team dynamic. So she built a team that flat out worked. And that spirit of looking out for each other just continued. Another supervisor, Helen Ling, knew that in an era with no maternity leave, having a baby meant the end of your career. So she just created her own system. She'd let women go to have their children, and then she'd hire them right back. I mean, this was decades ahead of its time, and it kept this incredible pool of talent from just disappearing. But a massive technological change was coming. You'd think the arrival of the first electronic computers would have made these women obsolete, but instead, it turned into this huge, unexpected opportunity. This part of the story is just fascinating. The male engineers at the time, they didn't really trust these new IBM machines. They saw them as unreliable, kind of clunky, not as good as a human. So they dismissed programming as women's work and just handed the new machines over to them. And in doing that, they unknowingly gave these women the keys to the future. And boy, did they run with it. They became the very first computer programmers at JPL. They mastered this new technology so well that they even got attached to their machines, nicknaming one of their big IBM computers Cora, and even giving her a dedicated office. How cool is that? This tech shift also cracked the door open for absolute trailblazers like Janes Lawson. Now, Janes had a chemical engineering degree from 1953, so she was more than qualified. But she was up against both racial and gender barriers. So when she saw an ad for computers wanted, no degree necessary, she knew exactly what that was code for. It meant the job was open to women. She applied, got the job, and became the first African American to hold a technical position at JPL. It didn't take long for everyone to see how talented she was, and she was sent to IBM training school, cementing her place as one of the lab's very first programmers. Now, this story wasn't just happening out on the West Coast. If we head over to what would become NASA's Langley Research Center in Virginia, there was another remarkable group of African-American women who were breaking barriers of their own. But the reality at Langley was starkly different. These women worked under segregation. They had separate offices in a section that was known as the Colored or West Area Computers. They had to face enormous institutional prejudice every single day. And yet, they rose. Dorothy Vaughan became the first African-American manager at Langley all the way back in 1951, building a total powerhouse of a team. You had Mary Jackson, who was working on cutting-edge supersonic projects, analyzing critical wind tunnel data. They became leaders in their fields, not because of the system, but in spite of it. And then there was Katherine Johnson, a physicist and mathematician who joined Langley in 1953. And her contributions, well, they would become the stuff of legend. Her work was, simply put, history-making. She hand-calculated the trajectory for Alan Shepard's first flight into space. When it came time for John Glenn to orbit the Earth, the new electronic computers had done the math. But Glenn famously said, "Get the girl to check the numbers." The girl was Katherine Johnson, and he would not fly until she verified the calculations were correct. And yes, her math is what plotted the path for Apollo 11 to land on the moon. Her calculations are literally woven into the fabric of human exploration. The impact of these women it's almost impossible to overstate. This isn't just some historical footnote. It's a foundational legacy that is very much alive to this day. Take this number, 65 plus. That represents the career of Sue Finley. She was hired in 1958 as one of the original human computers. Today, she's NASA's longest-serving female employee. And get this, after more than 65 years, she is still working at JPL, right now on NASA's mission to Jupiter. And make no mistake, their work did not end with the moon landing. The calculations and the programs that these women pioneered are what sent the Voyager probes to the edge of our solar system. They're what launched the rovers to explore the surface of Mars. Their legacy is quite literally written in the stars. And that leaves us with one final thought. We know the story of these incredible women now, but it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Whose hidden contributions, in labs and offices all around the world, are quietly shaping the breakthroughs that are going to define our future?